Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So apologies, I accidentally lost a lot of my footage of the sketching portion of this, so I will show you guys little snippets at the very end of this little sketching session. And I'm basically just sketching out my OC Masaki and Akemi, as I wanted to potentially do one or the other as a kind of like an animated drawing. So if you guys are familiar with Tears of Themis, it's another kind of like mobile game. It's kind of like an otome detective interactive mobile game, and basically they have some really pretty cards that have like little bits of animation in them, and like some of the character cards and stuff like have blinking or like light or like a little bit of movement. So that is what I want to attempt doing today. So we are going to be basically looking at any of these ones, and I think I'm going to do the third thumbnail, which is of Masaki holding a potted plant. So that is what we're going to be doing today. So first of all, I sent myself the file with the thumbnails. I'm going to pop that out into a new window so that I can keep that as a kind of like a reference point for myself. And we are going to be working in Clip Studio Paint just because it's a little bit easier for me to manage the layers alongside with having it as a PSD file right off the bat. So I dropped in a background color, and I'm starting off with the base for Masaki. So I also threw in his body just because I thought it'd be fitting for the composition a little bit more than just like the, I guess, like waist up, bust up for Masaki. Just because I think it fits the, I guess, like the canvas size that I had set out for him. So because the sketch went by super quickly, and I think it's because I'm so used to drawing Masaki so often that, you know, it becomes a lot easier the more you draw your OC, I went right ahead and did the line work. So before we move on, for the sketch, I used the right boru pen for the sketch, and then for the line work, I'm using the, I think it's Melty brush. I'll have the brushes linked in the description if you're interested. But yeah, it just gives me nice clean lines for the line work for Masaki. So in terms of the outfit, I wanted to keep it simple. I think this is kind of more like hindsight. I do wish I added movement to his apron as like a separate object. In the end, I actually merged his apron and his sweater together as one little body piece, so it doesn't really move that much. But for the line work, this does get a little bit more confusing than like just doing line work in general. You can see on the side I have things set in two folders alongside with setting things into these green layers. So for the green layers, I wanted to make sure I remember which layers were line work and which ones are going to be with color. So when I'm setting up stuff, actually I don't remember if I mentioned this. I'm going to be rigging in Live2D, therefore I need to separate different parts from one another so that I can set individual parameters for each of the objects. So for me, I needed to sort out my line work and my colors so that I can merge them together once they're done, and I can kind of just merge them into one finished layer, I guess. And yeah, that'll be just one object. So for coloring, it actually went by quite quickly because Masaki has like a pretty simple color palette. It's mostly just brown and teal for the most part. Hair is like brown, apron, brown, sweater, teal. And then for the flowers, I decided to do peonies. So for the peonies, I basically went off from what my brain can remember. It's like one of the flowers I've drawn a lot, but I wanted to simplify them a little bit. So hopefully me drawing them doesn't look too off. And I did separate each individual flower so that we can have some movement while kind of Masaki bobs up and down a little bit. So for the most part, I kind of wish I changed Masaki's pose a little bit, or changed it so that we could have other maybe objects or maybe a foreground element as well. I was thinking of maybe framing it in a certain way and having like flowers or foliage in the front so that we could have a little bit more movement. But I think simple worked out better because I was very lost when animating. It made me very confused, and I had a lot of issues with messing with the layers because for Masaki, I separated his arms into each individual component. His one hand also has like the finger moving. He also has like several strands of hair that I had to separate, which I don't think I did a very good job separating them. I was very confused because I didn't remember how to separate hair portions and stuff for Live2D models so that they don't look bald. in the very end. So yeah, hopefully Masaki's looking okay though, because I don't know, in the end he looks really cute. So yeah, I don't really mind. Yeah, I think that's about it for mostly for the drawing portion. So let's move on to using Live2D. So Live2D is the program that I used for rigging for my VTuber model and what I was interested in using for making an animation. So on the side, I am sorting out my layers. I'm also sorting out a little bit of like some warp deformers, some rotational deformers, I guess. I'm not sure what they are called, but I wanted to set them up so that I could figure out which parameters I wanted to keep and which ones I had to make like new ones. I believe for Masaki, I did make one for each individual arm. I also made one for his bracelet, but in the end, I'm going to condense it and simplify it because I noticed that I made things a little bit too complicated. A lot of like Masaki's hair strands could have probably been on one parameter rather than like on separate ones and stuff. So yeah. Also for the leaves, so I wanted leaves passing through and over Masaki kind of as a little bit of a foreground element, but it's very brief. I did not find a way for me to loop it so that it didn't kind of like boomerang itself back into the scene for the animation. You'll see it in a bit, but I just wanted it to pass through, but I wanted it to loop. But I couldn't get that to work, so maybe in the future I'll look into it a little bit more. So the thing that I like about using Live2D is kind of playing around with the parameters alongside with the warp deformers and stuff, and you can do a lot more stuff without having to need to redraw like individual expressions or need to draw like different eye movements and stuff. And I don't know, I think it just takes a little bit of time to know what you need and what you don't need so that you can kind of streamline your process. I'm not there yet, but I do understand the different processes. So I do think that if you want to pick up Live2D, you can do so, definitely. There is a free version too, which gives you a lot of wiggle room for using their parameters and everything. There are some things that the pro has more advantages towards, but the free version is very powerful and you can get a lot of rigging and stuff done with the free version. So highly recommend it. And I do think that like with learning any new kind of program or anything, it just takes a little bit of time. But for the most part, I think a lot of people have taught themselves how to use Live2D with much success, as well as like they learn it in a very short time. Okay, so actually let's move on. I went ahead and went to the animation mode that they have. I set all my, let's see, no, I imported my Live2D model what is it called, file into the animation portion. I made a new scene which allows me to have a timeline. I'm setting up keyframes, and I think the duration for the animation for Masaki is about 6 seconds long. And basically you can use each individual parameter that you already made for Masaki or for your character, and you can use those parameters to make the animation. So whenever you move the dots on each individual parameter, it basically makes a new keyframe on your timeline. So I'm basically just going through each of the elements or the parameters that I have and kind of timing it to what I want Masaki to do, which basically is just him. I want him to look at the leaves when they're passing by, and I want to move his hand kind of back and forth. It's just very simple movement because I'm not very proficient in using Live2D in general. So hopefully just getting a little bit of a look of what the back end looks like when I'm doing something like this gives you an idea of how much time it probably takes for kind of working on something like this. I think the animation turned out pretty cute. Here's the kind of real-time version and the leaves passing by. I think it looks really cute. Yeah, I think that's it for today's video though. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me basically animate in Live2D of my OC Masaki. Maybe in the future I can do one of Akemi, because I do have those other thumbnails, and I think it would be nice to do maybe a campus one with him holding his papers and stuff. But to export, I'm going to export it as a video file rather than a GIF, because my editing program absolutely hates GIFs. So yeah, we'll just export it and I'll show you guys what the final result looks like. So here's Masaki in his full glory right here. I think he looks really cute. So yeah, I'll just loop it a couple of times, but I think that's where I'm going to end today's video, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye! ba 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 bam. Okay, so I guess like April Fools, I wanted to treat today's video as if I was drawing Masaki during like the voiceover portion, but I was actually drawing Hansuke. But that being said, Masaki's version will be uploaded tomorrow, literally probably in 24 hours of this video. So that'll be kind of like as a bonus video for you guys. And yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me draw Hansuke today, who is my cat little mascot OC who I haven't drawn in a while. But I think that's it for today, I guess. Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.